Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep! Today we are covering a hot topic in our community that you have been requesting for a while, and here I am fulfilling my promise. This is in regards to Sukuna, the king of curses, being extremely interested in Megumi's curse technique. Even anime only fans have noticed this recently in the episodes, and manga fans have their own theory, and here I am presenting it. Interestingly, one of the more important relationships that Gege Akatami has formed within the series is between Sukuna, the king of curses, and Megumi Fushiguro. All of us are asking, why would the king of curses and one of the most powerful characters in the entire series be interested in a 16-year-old first year student?
Hey yo, what the fuck? Police! Help!
Well, get your thinking caps on because it's time for my balls deep curse technique as I have evolved. Remember, my powers keep evolving with every goddamn show we cover in this series. And I honestly appreciate your support, guys. We cover JJK on a weekly basis. I'd appreciate if you smash that like button right now and the notification bell, because that will let me know you guys are actually interested when I talk about it. So Sukuna is clearly a character with a bigger plan in motion and sees Megumi as a focal piece in his plan. Gege Akatami's main antagonist has already shown multiple times he is a cut above the rest. So when a character like Sukuna mentions that Megumi is crucial to his plans, it is safe to assume that he is a much bigger piece in Jujutsu Kaisen's plot than just a companion to our protagonist Yuji Itadori. Furthermore, Megumi is the center that revolves around Sukuna's plot, which we can speculate is to ultimately resurrect himself into a vessel or his original body that he can fully control without worry. And yeah, I know what you're probably thinking. Oh my god, every shonen anime nowadays has a vessel resurrection. Give me a break, give me something new. But chill fam, the way JJK's doing it, don't disrespect it, it's actually lit. Let me explain. The connection between Megumi and Sukuna has been teased since chapter 8 of Jujutsu Kaisen. Sukuna is already a part of Yuji Itadori by sharing a body, right? So one could only wonder, what is he thinking? Hasn't he received a vessel already? Well, he is using Yuji in his plan too. It has been confirmed on multiple occasions that Sukuna's main interest currently in the world is Megumi. In chapter 112, two vital things are said by Sukuna in response to Jogo's request for him to leverage permanent control of Yuji Itadori's body. Remember, Jogo offered to Sukuna that their alliance would make sense since they gave him 10 fingers at this moment, so he can force Itadori to make a binding vow contract to have permanent control by threatening everyone to die as he will kill them. But one major thing you will notice while reading Jujutsu Kaisen is that Sukuna, he doesn't really even identify himself as a cursed spirit, fam. This is because it's already confirmed to us that he was formerly human 1000 years ago. If you notice it when you are reading and in the anime, he always addresses curse techniques as a race that he is not part of and he looks down on. So while in Jogo's mind in this chapter, he believes that Sukuna will have a reason to side with them based on the belief that Sukuna is the king of curses after all, a curse just like them, but in reality Sukuna is on a completely different wavelength. Now ultimately, Sukuna responds by rejecting Jogo's proposal, telling him that it's not necessary and that he has his own plans. We also know for a fact that Sukuna already made a binding vow with Yuji Itadori in chapter 11 after he ripped Itadori's heart, killing him. In exchange for reviving Itadori and healing his heart, the vow Sukuna made was to allow him to have access to Itadori's body for a single minute once he chants Enchain. Sukuna added a second condition to this vow, which was that Itadori would forget about this agreement. This vow will definitely come into effect in the future when the time comes for Sukuna to complete his plan to be resurrected, as Itadori in this moment won't be able to stop him. However, I know you are confused right now. How am I coming to these conclusions, right?
I'm confused!
Well, please wait to the end of the video. I promise you it will all make sense.
Lies! Lies!
Basically, Sukuna, instead of working with Jogo, challenges him for his desperation, agreeing to a deal that he will kill every human in Shibuya but only one that he will leave for himself. But he will only make this deal if Jogo can land a hit on him. Even though Sukuna did not specifically name Megumi in this instance, it is obvious that he is the only human that he wouldn't want to kill based upon previous events such as Mahito vs Nanami and Yuji, where Gege, the author of the show, he narrates, "For Ryomen Sukuna, whether Nanami or Mahito survives doesn't matter at all. Only one person holds his interest. Aside from him, he truly doesn't care about anyone else." This is whilst showing a portrait of Megumi. This narration, coupled with Sukuna calling Megumi's ability more practical than a regular talisman use, shows that Sukuna has history with controlling spirits, which makes sense considering he is called the King of Curses. Now, before I continue, if you want to know why he is called the King of Curses, how did he get this name in the first place per se? Well, you know, if our community again shows enough interest, we will definitely cover it for you in the future. Make sure to hit the notification bell and let's try and get 10,000 likes. So, as far-fetched as it may seem at first glance, Sukuna using Megumi to achieve resurrection is not implausible. To put it simply, Sukuna will try to use Megumi to revive his original body or use Megumi's ability to create one. This is where the theorizing goes to the maximum output, using your goddamn curse energy, sharing it with me, and multiple subtle facts and key points given by Akutami. It must be considered. First, Megumi has the ability of Shikigami summoning, which is akin to curse summoning of sorts. Each of his Shikigami have representations of sacred treasures. Each of these treasures' lore revolves around the cycle of death and rebirth. This is where the author was inspired from. These 10 treasures resemble the symbols of the 10 sacred treasures of the regalia in Shinto traditions. The mirror of the deep, the mirror of the shore, the 8-hand-long sword, the jewel of life, the jewel of resuscitation, the jewel of plenty, the jewel of turning back on the road, and the snake repelling scarf. Each of Megumi's Shikigami shockingly have these symbols on them, which obviously shows the connection to the legend and Megumi's technique. This cycle is also apparent within Megumi's ability, where Shikigami must be summoned and defeated to ultimately be controlled, right? And when these Shikigami are killed, their remnants can be recreated and combined to form a new Shikigami. So this still begs the question of how all of this relates to Sukuna. You're probably thinking that, but don't worry, I got you. First and foremost, Sukuna's only one-on-one interaction with Megumi led to him stating to Megumi that his ability is a wasted treasure, which links back to the inspiration for the technique. This is when Megumi ran away from the cursed womb. This was the initial spark to show Sukuna's interest in Megumi and his technique. This was doubled down when Sukuna tells Yuji, "Soon we'll see something interesting," as he thinks about Megumi while trying to make a binding vow. When you analyze what Sukuna had said directly and indirectly, it starts to become more apparent that Sukuna is focusing his decisions centering on Megumi's very existence. Continuing, Sukuna has mentioned to Yuji Itadori that there were spirits that he cut and scattered that have begun to awaken now that Yuji has eaten the fingers. Despite Sukuna's ability of dismantle, it would be odd that he would mean these spirits he seemingly killed were awakening after Itadori ate the fingers. What is fascinating about this is the name of Sukuna's domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine, in the official Visa English translation, but when we look at the original Japanese text, some translate it to demonic territory. What should be focused on is not just the ability of dismantle and cleave, but the name of the territory itself, because Sukuna does use dismantle when expanding, but it is later shown that Sukuna has the ability to have more than one technique. But focusing back on the name of his domain expansion, a territory is an ornate, often portable beer for the relics of a saint, or in other words, a shrine to keep relics for saints. So no matter how you translate it, both names correlate to a shrine used for evil spirits or curses. It is highly possible that Sukuna has an ability to copy or store other abilities like relics, and his expansion is a manifestation of just that. The spirits that Sukuna had cut and scattered could be a part of the arsenal of spirits he was taking the abilities from. come. In chapter 117, Akutami draws a chapter cover of Sukuna that adds more weight to the theory because we see Sukuna with ancient weapons with all 4 of his arms visible, just like the real Sukuna of Japanese legend. It is also no coincidence, like come on, this was also the chapter where we get an in-depth explanation of how Megumi tames the Shikigami he summons. So using logic and summarizing everything, this indicates to me that Sukuna has curses and even curse users waiting on his return. Uraume is proof of this being introduced in chapter 53, being introduced after Goodwill. Uraume has even had their hand in controlling curse users working with the curses. These events led to chapter 116 and 117 where Uraume returns to Sukuna, who not only seems shocked at first but also tells them it won't be much longer until I'm fully free and don't neglect your preparations. Uraume seems as though she's worshipping Sukuna or wants to help him, just like the mythology that he's based on. These lines are important because Sukuna stops all conversation with Uraume whilst meeting her and recognizing her just to save Megumi, but he also ensures to let them know that the plans are coming along. So it is again safe to assume Sukuna may have certain curses under his command, and Megumi's ability was not only a convenient ability for storing curses, but it could also connect to Sukuna's resurrection or rebirth. Aside from the spirits connected to him, the biggest piece to this theory is Sukuna's fingers, one of the biggest focuses of Jujutsu Kaisen. Sukuna's fingers are stated by Satoru freaking Gojo to be indestructible, even demonstrating this by blasting a hole in the wall trying to destroy one right in front of Itadori. But the fingers mystery does not stop even there. In chapter 1 of Jujutsu Kaisen, we get Yuji eating a finger and becoming a possessed person for a moment, and in these crucial seconds we get a monologue from him that is commonly overlooked by fans. Sukuna yells out, "Aha! I knew it! Light is best appreciated in the flesh. A cursed spirit's flesh is no fun," which shows that Sukuna can incarnate through cursed spirits, but a human body is more ideal and is his eventual goal. Evidence is also shown when Sukuna pulls one of his fingers out of a cursed spirit, if you can remember, but it just disintegrates, similar to Megumi defeating a special grade in The Origin of Obedience, and Sukuna is shown watching him through the finger he obtained. However, if Yuji were to die or Sukuna were to be killed while in control of Yuji's body, it would mean the pieces of Sukuna Yuji has consumed would die as well. In other words, each piece of Sukuna Yuji consumes is trapping more of Sukuna's soul, and currently Yuji has 15 out of 20 pieces. If Sukuna was able to split his soul into 20 fingers, why wouldn't there be a way to reassemble them to form as a whole? It would only make sense that Sukuna would want to find his own body, one that he can control without binding vows or originally owned by a freaking teenage boy. But what body could he use? Well, his own. As wild as it sounds, it is already confirmed possible. Since Sukuna's fingers cannot be destroyed, then his body must be around as well. Evidence of this comes from chapter 3, where Satoru Gojo gives minor lore on Sukuna, stating that he was once human and during the golden age of Jujutsu, and that Jujutsu sorcerers fought against him, but it is also stated by Satoru Gojo that the sorcerers couldn't even destroy his remains that were preserved in his own grave wax. That description given 3 chapters in is the most crucial evidence that Sukuna's body may still be recoverable after he becomes one with all of his fingers. Another thing that adds to this is that grave wax is created from a decomposing body created from saturated fatty acids. In other words, it happens after fungi and other poisons begin to decompose the body, but the fatty acids congealate to form a wax-like substance. What if Sukuna's body is reacting to these poisons in a way that preserves his power and life essence? Sukuna's second title is the King of Poisons after all, stated during the Origin of Obedience when Yuji and Nobara were fighting 2 of the 3 death painting wombs. This is the same reasoning given for Yuji Itadori's immunity to Junpei's poisonous jellyfish. It seems likely that Sukuna's original form reached a level of omnipotence intelligence that allowed him to live for ages to maybe eventually be revived. Now this is where it all connects, and hopefully you got to this point of the video, but this is where Megumi Shikigami comes in. General Maharaga is the centerpiece that completes this theory, and that is because of how he is summoned. The general was summoned with multiple Jade Hound Shikigami around him, lined up almost in a sacrificial nature when he arrived. This coupled with Megumi's explanation that he must summon a Shikigami as a curse, exercise it, then it will become one of his control, once again showing off the cycle of death and rebirth within Megumi's technique. Megumi literally gives the Shikigami life to kill it and to control it. General Maharaga also shares an eerily human form, almost as if he could have been human in the past and his cursed spirit turned into General Maharaga. Where did a Shikigami get a blade of an extermination imbued with positive energy? Even Maharaga's design makes him look like an experiment of sorts created for the Zenin clan. So in turn, what if Megumi's ability allowed for subjugation of cursed spirits outside the 10 that he knows of? And what if this can create a new bodily vessel for Sukuna to reside in at the cost of Megumi's life or the full collection of his Shikigami, due to their deaths leaving remnants to create new Shikigami after all, as we just explained. On top of that, the Maharaga are a race of deities in Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. Like the Naga, they are often depicted as anthropomorphic. Oh my god, I'm gonna get memed. Holy shit, man, this is such a hard word. Guys, try to say this at home. This shit on screen. Anthropomorphic. Yeah, so like the Naga, they are often depicted as anthropomorphic. I can't do it all at once. Okay, but you guys get the point. But they are seen as beings with serpent bodies from the waist down and sometimes having serpent heads with humanoid bodies. It is also said in the sutra that one can be reborn as Maharaga, which once again alludes to the cycle of death and rebirth theme. Aside from this, Sukuna even makes it a point to applaud Megumi on understanding territorial expansion. When you pay attention to Megumi's expansion, it is extremely flexible and versatile, being able to store weapons, himself and Shikigami into shadows, creating a remarkably interesting discussion wondering if Megumi shadows are a sort of pocket dimension that can harvest and even manifest curses or curse entities. Taking this theory and combining it with Sukuna's cursed ability to seemingly copy and create his own rendition of other people's technique, i.e. look at the example of Jogo, it is possible Sukuna needs to understand more of Megumi's technique to fully realize his plan or lure Megumi into a trap to get him to agree to a binding vow and help him in resurrecting. It is interesting how Akutami is laying out very subtle and very direct breadcrumbs regarding the plot connection between Megumi and Sukuna, and that's why you guys have asked so many times in the comments to cover this topic. At the end of the day, it is obvious that Sukuna wants to get out of Yuji Itadori's body and Megumi is playing a vital role in the process. What will be most exciting to see will be how Sukuna gets Megumi to cooperate, because he's so cunning, and how long would it be until Megumi realizes that Sukuna has a plan involving him in the first place? Could Sukuna possibly use Megumi's sister as leverage for help, or will he cater to Megumi's appreciation of Yuji and treat it as a way of saving him from eventual execution? Gege Akutami still has a lot of room to explore and stretch out this plot point, but it is something to look forward to and expect. So as always, I'll see you guys next time. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram or Discord, and make sure to smash the like button and the notification bell and let me know what you think of this theory. We'll see you guys next time.